In the dim morning light that spilled gently through the clinic window, the world held its breath. She lay there, a trembling, delicate silhouette with a belly stretched to impossible limits, as if her body alone was trying to carry the weight of an entire world not ready to be born. Her eyes, wide and weary, locked onto mine, and time seemed to stop. That was the moment I felt it, the animal calling from within her silence, asking if anyone, would care enough to answer. My fingers hovered over the cold metal of the ultrasound machine, my heart beat loud in my ears. The monitor flickered to life, casting eerie shadows across the room. And then it came, the image that stopped me cold. I recoiled slightly, swallowing the gasp rising in my throat. "Oh no," I whispered, a knot formed in my chest as I glanced back at her. She blinked slowly, not in fear, but trust. She had no one else. And now, neither did I. The righteous care for the needs of their animals, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel. In that one gaze, we crossed an invisible bridge, not of species, not of science, but of soul. She had no name when I first saw her, just a shadow curled tightly in the cold metal corner of the animal shelter. Her fur clung to her like sorrow, dull and unkempt, and her swollen belly made each breath look like a silent battle. The shelter buzzed with the usual rhythm of forgotten lives, barking, whimpers, the metallic clang of cages opening and closing. But in the middle of that forgotten chorus, she made a sound so small, so soft, it cut through the noise like a prayer, a meow, not for attention, but recognition. "Hello there, sweetie," I whispered, moving closer. She didn't flinch. Our souls had already spoken. A worker approached, eyes tired but kind. Someone left her during the night, no note, nothing, just her. I knelt beside her cage, my hand against the metal. "You're not just a stray," I murmured. "You're a story waiting to be told. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? Yet not one of them is forgotten by God. No soul is forgotten. Especially not hers." I named her Bella, because even in her brokenness there was beauty. As I lifted her gently from the cage, her frail body leaned into my arms as if she'd been waiting her whole life to be held. The exam room felt quieter than usual, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. "You're about to be a mama, Bella," I said, stroking her soft fur. Her eyes met mine again, a glimmer of confusion maybe, but also warmth. Naming her felt like anchoring her to this world, like whispering to the universe, "This one matters." Her breathing was shallow but steady. I felt a strange lump beneath her fur and paused, my fingers gently tracing the unfamiliar shape. "What's this, girl?" I murmured. Could it be part of her pregnancy, or something darker? I didn't know yet. But one thing I was sure of, she trusted me to find out. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Sometimes healing begins not with medicine, but with being seen and being named. The ultrasound machine buzzed softly. Bella lay calmly on the table, her tail twitching once, then settling. The monitor flickered again. Inside her belly, the shapes began to form. First soft, swirling shadows, then something more defined. But as the picture became clearer, a chill crawled up my spine. These weren't the shapes of tiny, curved spines or fluttering heartbeats. There were angles. Sharp ones, too sharp, too regular. "What is that?" I breathed, narrowing my eyes. Bella let out a soft purr, unaware of the fear beginning to knot my gut. The shelter workers gathered behind me, eyes wide. One whispered, "This doesn't look normal." Another added, "She's in the best hands now." I nodded, but my mind raced. Something about those shapes didn't belong inside a living creature. I tried to push the panic down. Bella needed calm, so I whispered softly, brushing my hand over her ear. "We'll figure this out, I promise. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." Fear tries to claim you, but love speaks louder. As I moved through the shelter that afternoon, Bella remained in my thoughts like a song on repeat. Emergencies blurred around me. A woman burst in, cradling a bleeding stray dog. Her hands trembled. "I found him in the street," she cried. My team jumped into action, antiseptic, gauze, sutures. I held the dog's head gently as he whimpered. "Stay strong, buddy," I murmured. Bella watched from across the room, her eyes steady and calm. Somehow, her presence centered me. When the chaos peaked, she was the quiet eye in the storm. Her stillness was grace. We patched up the dog and the woman sobbed, thanking us. I told her, "He's safe now." Just like Bella was. But even as I spoke those words, the memory of the ultrasound haunted me. What was inside her? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. Even in a room full of pain, there is a light that refuses to flicker out. Then the doorbell rang again. Another patient. A striped cat limping badly, wrapped in a towel. A young woman followed, her face etched in fear. He swallowed something, she said, her voice cracking. I took the cat gently. "We'll take care of him," I promised. My hands worked on instinct, checking, soothing, searching for signs. But my thoughts never left Bella, the strange lump. The alien shapes? My heart knew something wasn't right, no matter how many times I tried to rationalize it. When the shelter director stopped by and asked, "Any updates on Bella?" I managed. A soft, "Soon," but the truth was I needed more than answers. I needed truth. And that meant facing what I feared to see. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. We look for answers in machines, but sometimes only faith shows us what we truly need to see. That night, the clinic fell silent. The hum of machines, the soft breath of animals asleep, the quiet ticking of the wall clock, all seemed to converge around one room. "Bella's," I sat beside her and whispered, "Ready to try again, girl?" She looked at me with unshaken trust. I reattached the ultrasound probe and let the screen fill with static, then slowly resolve into clarity. I adjusted the focus, then stopped. There it was, the same pattern, but clearer. Sharp, mechanical edges, a box, a foreign object. My hands trembled. "That's not—" "Bella, what's inside you?" I whispered. Not babies, not life, but a trap someone had planted deep within her, a device. Something cruel, something buried. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. They tried to discard her. But even darkness can't hide forever. The room was dark except for the flickering blue glow of the ultrasound screen. I leaned in, squinting at the shapes that twisted across the monitor. These shapes. "They're not natural," I whispered, my voice barely louder than a breath. A chill slithered down my spine. My heart stammered inside my chest like it already knew what I was seeing was wrong, not just wrong, but evil. And yet, before I could process another thought, I turned toward the camera, swallowing my fear. Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you. My voice trembled, not from nerves, but from dread. Then I looked back at the screen. Something was reflecting the ultrasound waves in a way that made my skin crawl. Hard shapes, artificial outlines. This wasn't life growing inside Bella. It was death, cold, silent, calculated. My stomach turned. "Not all of these look like kittens," I gasped, a hand instinctively going to my mouth. My blood ran cold. It was as if nature itself had been violated. Our journey had taken a nightmare turn, and what we were about to discover would test the very soul of humanity. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Jake heard the panic in my voice and rushed over, skidding to a stop beside me. His face drained of color when his eyes locked onto the screen. "My God, what is that?" He breathed, as if saying the words would help the horror make sense. It didn't. Nothing could. We both knew this wasn't a freak anomaly. It was a crime. "We have to solve this before it becomes a catastrophe," I said, the words tumbling out like prayers. And just then, the veterinarian burst into the room, her white coat billowing like a soldier rushing into battle. She looked at the screen once, just once, and her eyes hardened. "These shapes aren't moving normally," she said, her voice tense. "In fact, they're not moving at all." Silence gripped the room like a noose tightening around all our hearts. I nodded slowly, dread twisting deeper. What do we do now? I asked, but the words didn't feel like mine. They were a cry, not just from me, but from Bella, from every helpless creature used, discarded, and left to die. We all stared at the glowing blue screen. And in that moment I realized Bella wasn't just a cat. She was evidence, she was a victim. She was a key to unlocking something much darker. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. This looks really bad, the vet murmured, her hands trembling as she pointed to faint scarring on Bella's belly. Someone's already done surgery on this cat. You can see the old incision lines. An infection. Her voice broke slightly, then steadied with grit. They operated on her in filthy conditions. And now, if we don't get those objects out immediately, she's going to die. Time shattered like glass. There was no hesitation. We moved. Fast, not out of fear, but out of fierce love. This wasn't just animal rescue. This was a fight for justice. I wrapped Bella in a towel, cradling her carefully, feeling her fragile trust as she buried her nose against my chest. You're going to be fine, I whispered, the words both a promise and a prayer. Her soft, broken purr rose like the sound of a tiny heartbeat. It was all I needed to keep going. The room transformed into a battlefield. Lights snapped on. Gloves went on, hearts hardened. And in the center of it all, Bella, our miracle wrapped in fur, waited. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. The operating room pulsed with urgency. Every breath we took was borrowed time. I scrubbed it in, my hands shaking with adrenaline. We can do this, I told the team. We have to. Bella wasn't just a stray anymore. She was family. As the vet made the first incision, we braced ourselves. Then, one by one, they began to appear. Sealed plastic packets, implanted with surgical cruelty. I stepped back, my stomach wrenching. I can't believe someone did this to her, a nurse whispered. The vet's hands moved steadily, but her eyes burned. She's been through 2 surgeries, she growled. 1 to put this poison in. And now this. Each packet was removed like a time bomb. 1, 2, 3, 7 in total. 7 reasons she should be dead. When the last one came out, Bella's body lay limp, drained of every ounce of fight. Her breathing was shallow, her fur soaked with sweat. Is she going to make it? I asked, voice cracking. The vet's silence was a punch to the soul. I don't know, she said. The next 48 hours will tell us everything, and so we waited. He heals the broken-hearted and binds up their wounds. We moved Bella to intensive care, each step heavy with the weight of the unknown. Her body was still, her eyes closed. But her spirit, her spirit, was still trying. I sat beside her through the night, watching every breath, praying over every twitch. The sun hadn't even risen when the front doors burst open. Federal agents. A D specialist strode in with grim purpose, a forensics team trailing behind him. Treat this shelter like a crime scene, he barked. The packets had tested positive A-grade heroin. Street value? Over $50,000. My head spun. But the agent wasn't finished. These weren't just drugs. They were part of an international trafficking ring, and Bella, she's not the first. My heart broke in places I didn't know existed. The agents worked non-stop, snapping photos, running tests. Their disgust was visible. Whoever did this used surgical precision, the lead investigator said. This is organized crime, sophisticated, ruthless. I looked back at Bella, her chest barely rising. She had become evidence, but more importantly, she had become a survivor. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. As Bella clung to life, the investigation exploded. We learned the unthinkable. We've been tracking this operation for months, a D agent confided. They use pregnant animals to smuggle drugs. I blinked, stunned. Pregnant? He nodded grimly. They perform surgery to implant the drugs, then ship the animals across borders. Once they arrive, they cut them open and retrieve the cargo. My voice caught in my throat. What happens to the animals? The agent didn't answer. Another one did. They dispose of them. They're just containers. I couldn't breathe. Bella wasn't even supposed to live. They were going to kill her after the second surgery. We uncovered evidence linking the traffickers to 3 countries. Our shelter had accidentally intercepted a shipment worth thousands. And someone dark was going to come looking for it. But then something changed. When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous but terror to evildoers. Day 3, the world stood still. We were running on fumes. Coffee, hope, and sheer will. That's when it happened. Bella's eyes fluttered. I leaned in, afraid to believe it. But there it was. She was looking around, weak but alert. She's responding, the vet whispered, choking on her own tears. But we're not out of the woods yet. Her body had been through hell. Infection was still a risk. Her immune system barely holding, but her soul? Her soul had fight. I knelt beside her, stroking her head. You're fighting so hard, beautiful girl, she tried to purr. A soft tremble barely heard, but enough to shatter every wall I'd ever built. Her eyes were telling a story. A viral YouTube story. The world needed to hear, one of survival, one of a wild bond between man and beast, one of miracles, and the light shines in the darkness and the darkness has not overcome it. In the following days, the agents launched simultaneous raids. The results were historic. We've arrested 12 people, the D chief announced, and rescued 37 animals. Bella's pain had paved the way for justice. She had become a symbol, not of what was done to her, but of what we fought for. The agent gathered our team and revealed the full horror. This operation has run for over 2 years, he said. They target stray pregnant animals, implant drugs, abandon them at shelters, and have associates adopt them within 48 hours. Then they extract the drugs and dispose of the animals. It was methodical, evil, and now it was exposed. Because of Bella, because she survived. And as I watched her sleep that night, a soft hum of breath rising and falling in rhythm with my own, I knew this wasn't just an animal rescue. This was a revolution, for the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. I stood at the edge of Bella's recovery pen, watching her fragile frame rise and fall with every breath. The hum of machines around her was steady now, no longer a scream for survival, but a lullaby of healing. And yet, deep inside something, twisted, I felt sick. Not from fatigue, not from adrenaline, but from a crushing realization. We almost lost her, so close. One day, one adoption, one decision away from death. If someone had adopted her yesterday, the agent said bluntly, staring at Bella through the glass, she'd be dead by now. The words stabbed through the quiet like a blade. My legs wobbled. My vision blurred. She'd be dead. But she wasn't, because of a delay. Because the printer jammed. Because paperwork took too long. That random pause in processing saved her life. I sank to my knees, tears sliding down my cheeks. How many others weren't so lucky? The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry. The scope of the cruelty unraveled before us like a nightmare that refused to end. We estimate they've killed over 200 animals in the past 2 years. The lead investigator revealed, his voice void of emotion, not from indifference but from having seen too much. Too many lifeless bodies. Too many empty cages. Bella is the first survivor we found, he added quietly, reverently. The room fell silent. As if her little heartbeat was all that mattered now, and maybe it was. That fragile rhythm was a defiant drumbeat against the monstrous evil. A miracle wrapped in fur, a message that screamed, no more. In the days that followed, we changed everything. From now on, every abandoned animal gets a full-body X-ray, the vet announced, her eyes fierce. We won't let this happen. Again, emergency protocols, new screening procedures. Internal alerts, no animal would be overlooked again. Not on our watch. Because behind every stray might be another Bella, carrying more than unborn babies, carrying pain, carrying a secret, carrying hope, defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed. But just when we thought we'd heard the worst of it, the final truth struck like thunder. This was a multi-million-dollar operation, the D agent declared in a press conference, flanked by seized evidence and rescued animals. They were trafficking drugs worth over $2 million annually using animals as living cargo. The words didn't feel real. It sounded like fiction, like the plot of a horror film. But this was our reality. This was happening in our towns, in our shelters, in our arms. Innocent creatures, breathing, loving, trusting souls, had been turned into containers, used, cut open, thrown away. My stomach churned. I gripped the podium tightly as tears welled again. How had we missed this? How long had they operated in the shadows while we smiled, cleaned cages, handed over pets to what we thought were forever homes? The betrayal ran deep, but so did our resolve. Because Bella had survived, and her survival didn't just shine. A light, it blew the lid off everything. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. This case changed everything, the agent said with quiet satisfaction. Because of Bella, we've rescued over 50 animals and prevented countless deaths. Her name echoed through the halls of government buildings and rescue centers alike. Bella, the stray who shattered an empire of evil. The mother who wasn't supposed to survive. The victim who became a warrior. As her kittens grew, strong, playful, unburdened by the shadow that once surrounded them, the world watched in awe. Her story had gone viral, shared across continents, translated into dozens of languages. A heartwarming animal video, they called it, an emotional true story. But to us, it was more. It was a reckoning, a wildfire of awareness, a cry to protect every voiceless creature walking beside us. I watched her gently nudge one of her kittens, the tiniest one, as he struggled to climb over a pillow. She gave him just enough push, just enough love, just enough grace. She'll always be our guardian angel, I whispered. Not just for her babies, for all of them. For all of us, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Bella's legacy stood as proof that even the smallest victim could bring down the mightiest evil. That one heartbeat could unravel a kingdom built on cruelty. She had been forgotten once, left to die. But now, she would never be forgotten. Her name would live in the hearts of everyone who dared to open their door to a stray, who dared to ask, "Is everything okay?" Because she taught us that gut feelings save lives. She taught us that angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they have whiskers and a scar down their belly. So we ask you now, did you feel her story? Did it change you? If a pregnant stray showed up at your door, would you wait for someone to come? Or would you take her in, protect her, get her scanned, and perhaps save a life? Whoever saves one life saves the world entire. If this story touched you, please let us know in the comments. Would you take a chance on an abandoned cat if no one claimed her? Subscribe to our channel for more emotional, dramatic wildlife rescue stories, like the video If Bella Moved Your Heart. And remember, when something feels wrong, when your gut whispers louder than the world, listen. That feeling could be the only thing standing between a victim and a miracle. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. We'll see you in the next video, and until then, never stop answering the cry of the wild.